What's going on, guys? My name is Todd. Welcome to No Show Drift. Now, I know on the last episode I said the next episode, or the next video, would be manual converting the R31. Now, went through all my footage that I filmed, because I did keep filming for a bit, and I had a heap of footage on doing all of the steering lock mods on the R34. And I actually went very in-depth with it all. So I decided I would edit that video months ago, and when I say months ago, I mean a year ago. If you'll see, I have long hair now. I've been growing my hair out. In this video, I'm going to go right in depth about the setup in the 34, what I've done, and then also how to do a budget big lock setup. I talk about much more in 2 seconds. But yeah, I really like the video. I think it's great. It's got a lot of information in it. Yeah, check it out. Okay, so I'm calling this a budget setup. But you can do way less than what I'm doing. You can do a couple of these small things and still get some more lock out of your car. But the reason I'm still calling it a budget setup is because we're touching every component. Every component of your steering, we're doing something to in the cheapest way possible. I'll get into it now really quickly. Well, not quickly. I want to try and get more information across to some people behind what I've done. Okay, so first things first, we'll talk about lower control arms. Now, this is a front lower control arm out of the R34. What I've done with this one is I've extended it. Extended it 25mm. You can kind of see my welds here. I've got some footage of me welding this together right here. Ow, 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 motherfucker! Ow, shit! Beautiful welding. Fabrication. God. Now, the idea behind extending lower control arms, the main one is to get more clearance. So when you extend the lower control arm, it pushes the wheel further out, giving you more clearance against like your tubs, caster rods, and all that kind of stuff. So that's the main reason why you want to extend your lower control arms, more clearance. The pivot point for the knuckle sits further out. Another small thing, it does give you a bit more track. Don't think that would really make that much difference in like a budget build at all. One thing the track will affect is obviously how far the wheel is going to be sitting outside of your car. So make sure that if you do this, you have wheels that are actually going to fit underneath your guards after this, or just like run this much wheel gap, you know what I mean? And you can just run as wide track as you want. But that sucks. You keep drift cars low. You know what I'm saying? Now, price, the cost of this. You already have a lower control arm in your car. If you want to, you can replace ball joints or your bushes. I haven't done that. I'm not going to keep that in the cost here. Let's pretend you've got a car that has a good ball joint and a good bush. This cost me $35. $35, what did I spend that on? It was a lower control arm extension kit from RB Factory. RB, the letter RB Factory. If you go there to their website, they sell extension kits. They sell all different kind of lengths. And what you get in it for $35, I think it's like ends up being like $55 delivered, is you get this little piece here that extends it, and then you also get these pieces here, this bit and this bit, which are designed to box the lower control arms, giving them more strength and rigidity, especially after you've cut it up and put a new little bit in. So yeah, $35, $50 with shipping. Cha-ching, a little thing here, $50. Now, obviously, if you don't have a welder yourself, you would have to pay someone to extend this, or if you've got a friend that can do it, you can do it free. If you have a welder yourself, again, free. But yeah, the cost that I am using here is if you have access to free welding, which I guess for me it wasn't free. I did have to buy the welder and stuff, so that was like $1,000. But yeah, this is like minus labor, I suppose. Get a friend who can weld. Next component is this, the steering knuckle. Now, I sent this away and I got it modified. Now, there's a few names that people like to call them. Cut and shut knuckles, shortened knuckles, or modified knuckles. The modifications that you're making to these is on this part here, which is the pickup point or the mounting point for your tie rod end. Now, how this works is, tie rod mounts here, that's what turns, that's what physically steers the car. Usually, this is out about here. It's like this, like that. When you shorten it, the effort that's put in from the steering rack goes further. Now, by goes further, I literally mean goes further. It turns the knuckle further. For the same amount of effort and movement, because this is shorter, it moves the knuckle further, hence giving you more lock. That's it. It's pretty simple. The cost on something like this, if you have a welder, if you know how to do this, if you want to give it a crack yourself, it's as easy as cutting this bad boy off, shortening it to closer to the knuckle. I have had no experience doing this. I wanted to give it to someone who knew what they were doing. Sent it to a dude up in Queensland who has like a jig, and he's done a bunch of Skyline knuckles, and he charged me $300. The $300 is literally just shortening this. They treat the metal to make sure that it welds strong and safe, and they have a jig that they've worked on to get like the perfect geometry set up with it. So yeah, $300 as a total. Ching! Again, if you have your own welder or you have someone that can do this, they could probably do it for cheaper, or you could do it for free. In this circumstance, I have paid for it. $300. Okay, next piece of the puzzle is this, which is a rack extension. So what this does is it bolts into your steering rack, and then your rack end bolts into there. So what this does is, see this little step down smooth bit here? When that bolts on, it now allows this to move that much further into the rack, physically giving you more lock. The steering rack literally moves further. So you put this on one side, bolt that into the rack, bolt your rack end into that, then you put this on this side, which is literally just a little slip on, so it slips over your current rack end, and it just gives that little bit extra on the other side to give you that much more lock in total. Good little things. These like $60 from GK Tech. Good mod just to do if your car's completely stock, you just want to get that little bit extra. These are great. You just take them off, put them on. Really, really simple, easy mod. $60. Okay, next mod. Now this doesn't actually give you more steering lock. It's more of like something that you need to do to allow you to do the mods that you've just done. Turret ends. These are what bolt on to the end of your knuckle to help them steer, and then the rack end goes on that end. Now the reason that you need to get these is because you've just been seeing they're doing a bunch of modifications to your lower control arms, which is changing your track, as well as your steering rack, which you put the spacers in, so it's changing the lengths and distance of all these sorts of things. So you need to be able to compensate. If you just put the stock stuff back together, your wheel arm would be way out and you wouldn't even be able to adjust it. So these from GK Tech, they are an adjustable. When you buy these, you get these with it as well, which are like a longer piece if you need to go longer, if you've gone more track. And again, they give you another one that's even longer. I don't think we're going to end up using those ones. But yeah, an essential piece to this puzzle is changing the lengths of your actual steering, so you can actually give your car a proper wheel alignment. I can't remember the cost of this. I'm going to Google it. Give me 2 seconds. Just Google it. These are $200. $200 for a pair. The other thing that I forgot to mention about them is they also, so you can see, you can help all these spaces here. It can also adjust when your car obviously is lower. When you lower your car, all your components go on a weird angle. These spaces allow you to adjust this so that it kind of like flattens it out compared to what how much you've lowered it. Okay, the next thing. Now this again isn't anything to do with steering lock, like the actual physical amount of lock. This is something that I have bought. It's very specific to double wishbone cars. Being double wishbone, there's no way to adjust the camber just with having like camber tops like on S13s and R31s and stuff like that. So I've bought some adjustable upper control arms. Now literally, other than that, these are just in and out to allow me to adjust the camber on the car. These are not necessary. If you just want to throw the thing together, if you're really talking budget, you can just do it without these and just run whatever camber you end up having after extending your lower control arms, because it will adjust your camber. Obviously, it pushes the bottom of the wheel out. Lower control arms push the bottom of the wheel out, making the wheel lean over more, so you will have a bit more camber. But yeah, I bought these like $400. I bought them just so I had some adjustability in the front end. Next mod is steering rack relocation, or moving the steering rack forward on the car. I've done an entire video on me doing this. If you want to go back and watch that, put the link in the description to check it out. Now, in that video, I go into depth about why you need to do it and how to do it on any S chassis or R chassis. For a quick short thing, you're relocating the rack forward to stop steering bind. Steering bind is where you go too far past the center of these guys, and they can actually lock into place, and you have to physically pull the wheel off lock. I go into in way more detail than that in the video. Go check it out. One thing that you can do, you don't have to do all of that I've done in that video, where I cut it all up, weld it further forward so the rack mounts further forward. It's a big modification. What you can do is you can get offset rack spacers. Now, what they are, the rack spacers I was talking about here, but when they bolt up to the car, they actually have a little offset to them, and they like move the steering further forward. They're a quick, easy thing. They're about $100 from GK Tech. I know that earlier renditions of them were coming loose sometimes. I'm not trying to bag them out or say that they're a bad thing. I think they've changed them a bit now since I've heard. But I was in the position where I could relocate my rack, And I would suggest it to anyone else, just physically relocating your rack if you have the facilities to do it. If not, $100, get yourself some offset rack spaces. They will do you just fine, especially on a budget. So, in total cost of your budget lock setup is $300 for Knuckles, $50 for the lower control arms, $30 for the rack spaces, $200 for your tyrant ends. So that equals $580. Now, whoa, what a cheap setup. If you don't want to relocate your steering rack, it will be $650 because it's an extra $70 relocated rack spaces. So yeah, so $650, you could get yourself a pretty decent amount of lock in kind of any car. Like I said, besides the upper control arms, all of this can be applied to Sylvia's R31s, Chasers, Crusaders, all that sort of stuff. Chasers have upper control arms, so you will have to, if you want to get an adjustable upper control arm, go for it. Yeah, so this can be used in, a lot of applications. So yeah, I believe this is probably going to give me a very decent amount of lock for, like, I'll say a novice drifter. I always suggest to people that if you are learning how to drift, please learn how to drift with stock lock. Don't do big lock mods before you know how to drive a car. I cannot stress that enough. Whenever someone talks to me about, I'm learning how to drift, I'm learning how to do, I want to learn how to do drift and skids, what lock mods should I do? None. Zero. Learn how to control a car on stock lock. You need a much better driver knowing how to control a drift with no lock, with, like, stock lock. I learned how to do that in my R31s. I always had just stock S13 suspension in the front. It was all stock. It makes a better driver. It makes for a much better driver. So if you're just starting out, learn. If you've got a few track days under your belt and you're kind of like out driving it, 100% start doing these lock mods. You can do the small things. Like I said, just putting the rack spaces in. First mod, done. Do your lower control arms to get a bit more clearance after you put that in. Done. I mean, really, it's not that much money. If you're serious about wanting to get into drifting, $600. It's not a lot. A bit of time, but yeah, if you've got all the components there in front of you and you've already done your rack relocation, it's an easy in and out job. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's put it all together. Let's see how much lock this does. I don't know how I'm going to be able to measure it. We could just be like, whoa, man, that's got heaps of lock. Much lock on the Todd scale. So yeah, let's get over there and start putting this front end back together. There's the GK Tech adjustable one. There's the factory one. I'm just going to adjust these guys up till it's the same length of these. So I'm just kind of going to line up this bolt with this bolt and adjust these out till they're lined up. And I can throw it in and adjust from a factory length to wherever I want it to be. All right, adjustable upper control arm installed. Just left it at the OEM length. And they give you a bolt put in here because it ends up needing to be shorter. So you get that in the box with it. Yeah, I'll start putting the front end back together now. Lower control arms, steering knuckle, all that sort of stuff. I'll pull this rack end off and put the spacer in. Hot tip for anyone doing drifting, remove your front sway bar, as I'm doing currently now. What it allows is the front wheels to move independently from each other a little bit more, especially on like hot entries. You don't want the wheels moving together and it lifting a wheel up and you lose some grip. So if you can keep both wheels on the ground as much as possible, you'll have more grip. So yeah, get rid of that front sway bar. Yeah, cool. Let's start putting this back together. I'll put the lock control arm in, single bolt at the back, front ball joint goes on into the knuckle. I might put the knuckle in first, actually, then put that up to the... But yes, knuckle and lock control arm in. Righto, knuckles in. Literally is just held in by the top bolt here. I'm sure it's a 17 or something like that. So yeah, there's a little dust cap to go over that. So tighten it up, throw the dust cap on it, and then we'll bolt the lock control arm up. Remember to put your caster back on first, because it goes above this arm before you bolt it into the bottom of the knuckle, like I just did. Had to do it all again. Nut on. This is a 22 mil. I don't know why. I think usually it's a 21, and it would actually usually be a castle nut. But for some reason it's not. It's just a flat nut. Don't forget to put your split pins back in. And yeah, that's kind of like all assembled now. So close to seeing how much we got, how much lock we're gonna have in this bad boy. So yeah, exciting. So the turret end is on. This is the GK Tech one where you can adjust for bump steer. I've got it all the way down. I think I might raise it a little bit because it lets the turret end slip past this lip. It kind of just taps on that lip and I can get like, that much more lock out of it if I raise it up a little bit and hit there. Don't think it's going to affect my bump steer too much. If it does, I can just adjust that really easily. You just put this underneath and it raises and lowers that. So yeah, I've undone my rack ends, ready to put my rack spacers in. This goes on the passenger side, this goes on the driver's side. If you're an American watcher, which I doubt I have any American watchers, watches, it's the same thing. Whether it's right-hand drive or left-hand drive, this goes on the passenger side. So yeah, I'll start throwing them on. Don't forget to use Loctite on both in here and on here and on when you do this up. Loctite, Loctite, Loctite. So yeah, I'll get that in. All right, that's the rack space installed on the passenger side. It's the larger one of the two, not the slip-on. It's the screw one. That's rack spacer end of the rack end. There's the rack, and I will just do a little example of how these work. As you can see, getting to there is where it would usually have stopped, but because we have that little bit of extra on the end of this, you can go all the way to there now. So it just gives you that little bit of extra of steering in the steering rack. All right, now it's nighttime now. I hope the lighting is okay and the footage turns out all right. I have put it all together. We can actually check this out. Now, I am hyped on this because these being a double wishbone car, when you lower them down, Skylines in the front don't get much camber. There's no adjustable ability with any coilover hats or anything like that because they're a double wishbone. They've got an arm at the top, arm at the bottom. But since I've extended the lower control arms, let's push the bottom out, and it looks spicy. It looks really good. It looks like it's got about, I'm going to say, 4 degrees of camber, just based on what I can see. It's lowered the front of the car down heaps. Probably dropped it about 25 mil, which is, I guess it's good, because, you know, more low is better, but I will be raising this up because I've tested it, and the wheel does hit on the guard. So we'll need to raise it up, but let's see how much luck we got now. All right, left hand down, so the leading wheel, pretty good. Pretty decent. I'm very happy with that. What's stopping that is the control arm. That's the turret end up against the control arm there. But very happy with it. I will just leave it as it is. I'll just leave it as it is for the first few events. I'm honestly probably going to be very happy with this amount of lock to start off with. Right hand down, so trailing wheel. Now, it's got probably about 10 centimeters of clearance between the rim and the caster, so I'm pretty happy with that. It's hitting, the turret end is hitting on the low control on the other side, so it's not going any further than that. That's at stop. Yeah, like I said before, extremely happy with this. Extremely happy with how much lock I've gotten out of this. Very happy. So yeah, that's the front end pretty much tied up. I will want to raise it. Like I said, that is hitting against the guard pretty hard, so I will bring it up like 20 mil or something like that. It's got like reverse rake at the moment. It's very nosedivey. I don't like the look of that. So I'll raise the front up a little bit just to give us a little bit more steering. But I need to wait to get a proper wheel alignment. That's the thing with all this sort of stuff is you'll get more out of it once you get a proper wheel alignment adjusted properly. But yeah, that was my video on the lock setup in the 34 and a little bit of insight if you're wanting to do a bit of a budget build. Like I said at the beginning, I think it was about $550 or $600 we could work out that we could do all this for. Get that little bit extra lock. Present Todd is back. Hello, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I know I did. Next video, we will be working on the R31. I promise you that. Most likely doing the manual conversion. So yeah, like, subscribe, stick around. I made a TikTok. It's kind of cringy, but I thought I'd do it for like short videos. I don't know. It's No Show Drift on TikTok if you want to go check it out. Alright, catch you later.